Hi guys, welcome to part 1 of the troll video. In this video we are making the nose, and if you've missed the introduction that talks more about this troll, please view that. That should be popping up on your screen right about there. Click on that and I'll take you over to the introduction and show you the entire troll. This is just parts of him here. This video we need to make the nose before we make the head of the troll, because we're going to attach the nose before we continue on with the body of the troll. I've broken up the nose video into a couple parts because it is quite long. This video will take you from row 1 all the way to the end of row 8, and then we're going to stuff the nose together on film. Alright, so let's grab your crochet hook and let's get started making the nose for the troll. Starting with row 1, we're going to make a loop with 6 stitches. Now there's different ways of getting this loop, so if this way doesn't work for you, don't give up. Just search YouTube and find another way of getting a ring with 6 stitches for crochet. I'm going to do my favorite method. It's called the magic ring, and I'll go over it with you very slowly, so you just watch me. You don't follow along with me, just watch what I'm doing and then try it yourself, and rewind the video as many times as you need to, and remember to take breaks when you need them. Okay, I'm going to take the shortest yarn tail and I'm going to wrap it around these 2 fingers twice. Once, twice. Then I'm going to hold that yarn tail in between my pinky and my thumb. Then I'm going to hold the working yarn in between my pinky and my thumb. I'm going to insert my hook. I'll bring it back a ways. I'm going to grab this yarn and pull it through these 2 rings. Now I have a loop on my hook. We're making a slip knot. I'm going to grab that yarn again. I'm going to pull it through this loop. And there is our slip knot. Now we can remove the ring off of our fingers and get ready to crochet on. I'm going to put 6 single crochets into this ring. Every time I go through, I'm going to go through both rings. I'm going to be grabbing this yarn in the back. And I'm making 6 single crochets. Going through the rings, grab that yarn and pull it through the rings. Now we have 2 loops on our hook. Grab the yarn again and pull it through those 2 loops. And there was a single crochet. We're going to do that 5 more times. Going through the rings, grab the yarn, pull it through the rings. We have 2 loops again. Grab the yarn, pull it through those 2 loops. And there was 2 single crochets. Going through again, grab the yarn, and there was 3. Going through the rings, grab the yarn, pull it through the rings, and there was 4. And 5, and last one, and 6. Now we have 6 single crochets in this ring, and we can actually count those. The 6 single crochets on the ring are called stitches, and we have 6 stitches across. And each stitch will have 2 loops in it, and they look like a V. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we need to close up this ring. You can see my starting yarn tail is kind of in between there, so I'm just going to pull that out. So I'm going to hold this end between my finger and my thumb, because we need to pull one of these strings upwards to close up the ring. I pulled that one, it didn't work, so I know it's the next one. And I'm pulling up in between my finger and my thumb. Now we need to get rid of this loop, so we're going to pull the starting yarn tail. And there we go. And that's row 1, and now we have a loop with 6 stitches. Moving on to row 2, we're going to be putting 2 single crochets in each one of those 6 stitches. And you can see those V's there. So we're going to put 2 single crochets in each one of those 6 stitches. When you go through, make sure you're going through both loops of the stitch each time you go through. Very easy to just pick up one loop, so make sure you're going through both. Push your hook through, grab the yarn and pull it through. Yarn over and pull through. And there was 1 single crochet in the first stitch. Now we need to go back on the same stitch hole and make another one. And there was 2. Now 2 single crochets into the second stitch. There was 1, going back in the same stitch hole, and there's 2. And that was 2 single crochets into the second stitch. Now we're going to go into the third one. There's 1, going back into the third one, and there's 2. Now going into the fourth stitch, put 2 single crochets, now going into the fifth one, and there was 2 single crochets, and now into the sixth. That's the last one of the row. There's 1, and back in, and 2. And there's the end of row 2. Now we have 12 stitches around. Before we continue on, we have to add a stitch marker. We want to know the last stitch that we just put in. What I do is I use a piece of yarn of a different color, but this can be pulled out along the way, so just keep that in mind if you do the same thing. I'm going to pull out my last stitch so I don't lose it. Then I'm going to go through that stitch with my hook, and I'll lay my yarn over that hook and pull one strand through and leave the other one hanging. And I'm going to move this marker every time I finish a row. So row 3 is 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the second, and then we're going to repeat that. 1 in the next, 2 in the next stitch after that. 1, then 2, 1, the 2. When we land on this marker, we should be putting in 2 single crochets. I'll do this row with you. 1 single crochet into the first, and then 2 single crochets into the second. There was 1, and going back in the same stitch, and there's 2. Now I'm going to repeat that sequence, 1 in the next stitch, and then 2 single crochets in the stitch after that. There's 1, and 2. 1 single crochet in the next, and then 2 single crochets in the stitch after that. And remember, you're just watching me to see how to do it, and then you can pause the video, do it yourself, and then hit play again when you're ready to carry on. 1 single crochet and then 2 into the next. There's 1, and then 2 into the next. Repeating, 1 single crochet and 2 in the next stitch. And coming to the end of the row, 1 single crochet in the next, and 2 is going to land on that marker, so we're going to pull it out and go ahead and put in our 2 single crochets. And there's the end of row 3, and now we have 18 stitches around. I forgot to mention the starting yarn tail. That's this one hanging out there. If your middle hole, the center hole of row 1, is large and there's a big gap there, you can actually close that up. You just hang on to it and then pull on the starting yarn tail, and that will close up that center hole. Now you don't want to cut this because it will eventually work itself free and you'll end up with a hole in your stuffy, so we're just going to leave it hanging and we'll tuck it into our piece as we get further into the pattern. Okay, so we're ready to move on to the next row, but remember we're going to add a marker, so I'm just going to pull up my last stitch so I don't lose it. I'm using yarn, so I'm just going to go through. I'm going to lay my yarn over and pull through one strand. Rows 4 and 5 is 1 single crochet in each one of those 18 stitches. So 1 single crochet in each one of those stitches. When you land on the marker, you should be putting in 1 single crochet, and you're going to go 2 rows with this. So when you get to the end of row 4, remember to move your marker and do 1 more row of single crochets. And remember, each time you go through, that you go through both loops of your stitch. 1 single crochet in each one of those 18 stitches for 2 rows. I'll meet you back here at the end of row 5. Okay, I just got to the end of row 5, and you can see my piece is actually folding up on itself. So you can see this is the wrong side, And this piece in here is actually the right side. We're going to have to turn this. So you just push where that starting yarn tail is coming out of inward. So now we're working the right side again. Before I move my marker, I'm going to show you how to count the rows. I'm just going to pull up my last stitch so I don't lose it. So we're always going to count behind the marker. So I normally put my marker into the last stitch that is put in, so I'm going to count behind it. If you count in front, you can see where this kind of dips down here, so it'll throw you off by 1. So we're going to count the rings. So there's row 1, that's that center loop, and we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we're at the end of row 5. Now I'm going to move my marker. So moving on to row 6, we're going to start decreasing the piece, and that we do that by crocheting 2 stitches together. So I'm going to do this entire row with you. We're going to put 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then we're going to crochet 2 stitches together. So 1 single crochet in the first, and now we're going to crochet these next 2 together. So I'm going to go through, grab my yarn, pull it through, leave that loop on my hook and go into the next stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through. Now we have 3 loops on our hook, grab the yarn and pull through all 3 loops. Now we just crocheted 2 stitches together, so we've turned 2 stitches into 1. Now we're going to repeat that sequence, 1 single crochet in the next, and then 2 together. So 1 single crochet, and now 2 together. Now for some people, when they crochet stitches together, they start to see big gaps. And if you're one of those people, I'm going to show you how to eliminate that. So there's 1 single crochet in the next. So now I'm going to crochet 2 together. So if you're one of those people that start to see gaps, then we're going to do it in 1 loop only when we crochet stitches together. Remember I told you the stitches have 2 loops? There's the front loop, that's the one closest to you, and then there's the back loop, and that's the one furthest from you. You can do it either way. Some people like to do it in the back loop, and some people like to work in the front loop. I just find working the front loop is a little bit easier, so let's do it that way. So go through the front loop, grab your yarn, pull it through, leave that loop on your hook, and go into the next front loop. Grab your yarn, pull it through. Now you have 3 loops, yarn over and pull through. And that's called the invisible decrease, so if you're seeing big gaps, that should eliminate it. So we can repeat that, 1 single crochet in the next, and now 2 together. Let's work in the front loop. And pull through all 3. Now we'll repeat that sequence, 1 single crochet in the next. We can do it in the back loop too, it doesn't matter. Whatever way works best for you, I always say. There's no right and wrong way, there's just the best way for you. And now if you're like me and you don't see gaps, don't worry about working in those loops, just work through both. I'm going to pull out my marker because I'm going to be crocheting those next 2 stitches together. I'll just go through the 2 loops like I normally do. And there we go. And that's the end of row 6, and now we have 12 stitches around. So I just moved my marker, and I can actually cut up the starting yarn tail a bit shorter and get it out of my way and just tuck it into the nose. So that was the end of row 6, and now we have 12 stitches around. So we started the row with 18, but because we decreased 6 times, we're now down to 12 stitches. Row 7 is 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. That's 1, 2, and then we're going to crochet 2 together. And then you're going to repeat that sequence all the way around till you land on the marker. When you land on the marker, you should be crocheting 2 stitches together. So I'll just go through both loops, crochet 2 together. The next one I'll do an invisible decrease, so 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And now I'll just work on the front loops, crochet 2 together. Now you see I can only repeat that sequence 1 more time. I'm going to be landing on that marker. So there was 1 and 2 and now crochet 2 together. And now we're down to 9 stitches around. I'm going to move that marker. Row 8 is 1 single crochet in each one of those 9 stitches. So it gets a little bit more difficult to work in when this hole gets smaller. You'll find it more difficult to work in. So just take your time and make sure you're getting into the right stitch. So if you pull up, you can see the last stitches I just worked. You don't want to go into there again because it'll throw off your stitch count if you put a stitch in there. So you want to make sure you're getting into the first stitch of the next row. So that's this one right here. And there was 1. Going into the next stitch. There's 2, 8, and last one, and 9. Now we're going to stop and we're going to stuff the nose before we carry on. And I find the back end of a pencil or a pen works well. If you can't get your finger in there. There we go. Alright guys, because the video is getting kind of long, we're going to end it here, and I'll send you over to part 2 where we're going to do the rest of the nose. We're going to make the flat part of the nose together. I'll see you over there.